Hello YouTube, it is Ben Barrett here again, and I'm back with the Erdnot Reeve to my Erdnot Rex, Richard Scott Jones.
Okay, hello.
Violent and angry, as always. And we're here to do another Mass Effect video. I should mention this one's being recorded a little while before you see it, so if any of this information seems a little out of date, that could be why. But we're hoping that as it is about combat and everything to do with it, to do with classes and that sort of thing, we should kind of have all the information we need pretty much locked down at this point.
Probably, yeah.
So let's kick it off. Mass Effect combat was not great until 3.
Yeah.
It wasn't great, okay? I know what you're saying. You're like, 2 was great. No, it wasn't very good. It got a little bit better in 3.
I got quite a lot better.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot better in 3, but it kind of still doesn't stand up to what you might expect from kind of a modern action RPG or third-person shooter or that sort of thing. So, what kind of stuff are they changing for Andromeda?
It's fairly clear they're taking it seriously this time. There are 3 big changes. There's the jetpack, there's dodging, and there are tweaks to cover.
Right.
So cover is now destructible and dynamic. Of those, the jetpack probably has the biggest impact. You can use it to quickly jump up cliffs or build different stories of a building. Or if you get flanked, you can just jump up and shoot down at your attacker.
Right.
Since when you're aiming in midair, you can that'll activate some hover jets, which just sort of keeps you fixed in place. So it gives you a couple of escape routes, a couple of different options.
And that is extremely cool, for one thing, as we've seen in a couple of trailers, but I assume that you're kind of quite vulnerable when you're doing that sort of thing, particularly if you might be playing on one of the higher difficulties.
Yeah, for sure. So if you're hovering in the air and you're exposed and everything, then it's not something you should do often.
Right.
But it does. You do have a moment or two before opponents react. Same with dodging. So I mean, I got surprised in my hands-on time of the game. I got surprised by an alien dog-like thing with its own invisibility cloak. Right.
Right,
So had this been a Cerberus Phantom, say in Mass Effect 3, I'd be dead. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's frustrating. But I in this case, I had the option to jump into the air. I froze him with my cryoblast ability, and that gave me some time to take him out. Had I just sort of hung there and tried to shoot him instead of buying myself some time, the other Ket who was shooting at me
would have then taken you out.
Would have probably killed me first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, so this was on normal, right?
Yes.
That you were playing on, as far as you know.
No, I set the difficulty. It wasn't.
Okay, right, fine. Now, do we know anything about how Insanity is going to play, for example? Because particularly in Mass Effect 2, I think it was actually a little nicer to you in Mass Effect 3. If you're out of cover for 2.5 seconds, you're just dead, and that's the end. So are they going to have to scale some of that back? Surely they are, if any of these tools are going to be useful.
We don't know. Is the honest truth? Like, we know that the difficulty setting will change enemy health. It will also change enemy behavior and AI and sort of movement patterns.
Probably numbers as well, I would assume.
Yeah, numbers like health and damage and things.
Yeah.
In Fraser, I think it was, who said that Insanity will be like serious,
proper difficult.
Difficult. So it doesn't sound like they're going soft. But again, you have those tools, you have those options. So you can dodge. When we're talking about dodging, you can dodge sideways, backward and forward.
Right.
You can do that on the ground, and you can do it in midair as well.
Okay.
And it will temporarily throw your enemy's aim. So you can use that, and you can also use that to move behind cover. It's basically a much faster, much more versatile version of Shepard's combat role, except you can do it in the air as well. So you can also use it to jump over large gaps while you're platforming. Say.
Right, I see.
So both the dodge and the jetpack, they're on quite short cooldowns. So you do feel very agile, and they get even more useful when they're used together with profiles.
Right.
Since we'll talk about this in a little sec, but some profiles will confer special effects on your jump and your dodge, and you can change the behavior a little bit more.
Sure, so all that kind of plays into both the actual combat side of things and the movement abilities and not just how much damage you're doing and what you're doing it with and that sort of thing. Fair enough. So you mentioned cover as well. How's that changed? It was pretty basic, I would say, but even in Mass Effect 3, it was kind of you're either behind something and you're safe or you're not.
Yeah. Well, it's in Mass Effect 3, of course, you had this sort of snap to cover with a button that you press. Yeah. That's one of the things that's changing. Okay. So now it's automatic. You'll be able to walk up behind cover and just sort of press into it, and then Ryder will automatically hunker down.
Right.
Some cover, at least, is also destructible now. So you can expose your enemies by destroying their cover, and they can actually do the same to you.
Okay. I mean, that's all part of the Frostbite engine, right? Which means the stuff's going to look really nice as well.
Obviously, with the sort of automatically snapping into cover, the danger is that he won't do it when you want him to do it, or that he won't leave it when you want him to, or something. But it seemed to work all right when I played. Okay. I guess that's one to wait on reviews. Yeah. The overall effect of all these changes is that the fighting is a lot faster and a lot more dynamic. And by dynamic, I mean that circumstances change a lot. So there's a lot that you'll need to sort of react and adapt to. And I found again that with things like the invisible dogs, there is clearly a recognition that sort of variable enemy types will come back.
Right.
I think they were a lot stronger with that on Mass Effect 3 with things like the Cerberus Phantom and the Nemesis that sort of sniped you and stuff, and different mixes of biotic barriers and shielding.
In 2, it certainly
armor,
felt like you could get through the whole game just using one weapon type. 3, I felt like maybe you needed 2. Do you think in this you're really going to need to switch that up a lot more?
Well, they're trying to make it accessible at the same time as deep.
Right.
So I think it's probably fair to say that you will need a lot of tools in your box.
Yeah.
But you can have all of them at a sort of a shallow level with the Explorer profile, which again is something we'll talk about.
Yeah.
But then if you're really into sort of like switching up your classes and going deep into the systems, then you'll be able to build a profile in a particular way and switch between them all. So again, like there are lots of things that you've got to adapt to these toolkits, take out enemy shields, take out enemy armor, react to different enemy behavior types. If your cover gets destroyed, you've got to adapt. We know that enemies will have biotic abilities again, and they'll be able to do things like jump. But again, you have the tools to do it. You're more mobile, you're more agile. Power combos are back, we know this again, and they'll be easier than ever to pull off since your powers are on individual cooldowns now. And
yeah, it was always super weird. Going back to play it, it's just so strange because I haven't played a game that works like that in so long. And yeah, I think that's a definite change that's just going to make sense to people.
And another one of the obstacles, I think, to doing power combos before was that like some of the different powers work differently in synergy with each other.
Yeah, sometimes stuff would explode for you couldn't really know why.
Exactly.
Like, oh, that works. Okay.
And sometimes some primers wouldn't get detonated by another power that's supposed to be a detonator. Now, any detonator works with any primer.
Sure, and it's also all called out on the abilities, right? Because it isn't actually, at no point in the game does Mass Effect, I think in 3 it does, but up until then it never actually goes, by the way, this is really good. This is how you're meant to beat the game, particularly in multiplayer.
It says you can do this. It doesn't really tell you a lot about how and when and where and why to do it.
Yeah, and now it's like, okay, this is a primer, this is a detonator, it's going to do this, it's going to have this extra effect, etc. So, all right, talking of powers and classes, we have already made a video that some of you may have seen that was kind of guessing at a lot of this based on... Now, it was based on the first gameplay trailer, right?
Yeah.
Where we got, it must have been about 45 seconds worth of kind of menu footage. We took a guess at a lot of this. How did we do?
We got it pretty good. Like, not to brag, but we got it pretty close.
Okay.
But so now that I've actually played, and we think we know more or less how it's going to work in its entirety. Basically, profiles are what classes used to be. There are the original 6 classes in profile form, plus a 7th called Explorer. And in the same way as classes used to draw on tech, combat, and biotic skills, profiles draw on those in the same way and in the same proportions. So, for instance, Soldier is 100% focused on combat abilities. Infiltrator is half and half combat and tech. The difference is that Explorer, in contrast to everything, draws evenly on all 3. So it's a mix of all 3.
I see. Yeah, so that didn't exist. That just didn't exist in the original games, right? It was always a combo of 2.
It was always a combo of 2 or just a concentration on 1.
Yeah.
So the difference is this time around, you don't pick a class and stick with it all game. Rather, you'll pick skills from across those 3 categories, and your profiles will sort of react to your choices. You can either unlock them by or level them up, depending on the skills that you pick, and then you'll be able to switch between those profiles freely. And your incentive to do this is that profiles confer certain buffs when they're equipped. So just to give, for instance, my favorite class personally is Infiltrator. In the original trilogy, that was combat and tech. My plan when Andromeda comes out is to level up my favorite skills from the combat and tech trees, and as I do that, I'll unlock first the Infiltrator profile, which I can then equip, and then I will rank it up as I continue to invest in combat and tech skills.
Sure.
And when I do that, my Infiltrator buffs will get stronger.
Sure, so then, because you've invested into this, the game rewards you at that point and says, oh, okay, you like combat and tech, or you like playing with sniper rifles or whatever, and then you'll get these buffs you're talking about. So what kind of things did you see, and what can we expect from those?
Well, there are, essentially the profile buffs fall into 2 types. There are statistical buffs, which, they work in the background. They're not particularly exciting, but they do sort of lean into your profile, your playstyle. So infiltrators, for instance, get bonus tech recharge speed, they get bonus critical hit damage, they get bonus weapon accuracy and bonus weapon stability. Okay,
so they're good with sniper rifles and they're good with tech powers.
Yeah,
okay.
Sniper rifles, critical hits, headshots, tech powers. And then at higher ranks, though, you'll get some more exciting stuff. So at higher levels, infiltrators will get a free temporary cloak whenever they dodge. and they can see their enemies through walls whenever they scope in with a rifle. So again, profile buffs are designed to sort of lean into the profile, the playstyle that you'd expect from that class. Infiltrators being stealthy, making headshots. Vanguards, for instance, charging in, doing melee damage at close range. So they will get things like bonus melee damage, and they'll get melee attacks that can regenerate their shields at higher ranks. And as we mentioned, some profiles will also change how your jetpack and your dodges will work. The Explorer can dodge through solid obstacles, for instance, at higher ranks.
Right, I see. Cool. Okay.
Yeah. And when you fancy changing your playstyle or unlocking new tactics to deal with certain enemies, for instance, you can just put some points in different skill types to unlock or rank up a new profile. And also you can buy respec in the Tempest's med bay if you'd like to completely overhaul your build.
Sure, and we've also learned that you can level up as much as you like, right?
Yeah.
And I think now, did they tell you that it would probably take about a game and a half to do this?
That has been the implication. I think it was tweeted or something.
Right. Okay. Sure.
I don't know exactly where we know that from. We know from someone.
Yeah, they would take. Yeah. You would have to get about halfway through a new game plus before you'd have everything in the game.
There is no level cap. You can unlock every skill in the game theoretically, but it will take you into a new game.
And it means that you can just kind of play how you like, rather than being locked in from the start. Because, example, I picked Soldier in Mass Effect 1. I never changed it. I did happen to enjoy it. But it would have been nice to have maybe a few more options sometimes. And if I ever log on and I'm like, okay, I've played, 2/3 of this massive game, because Mass Effect Andromeda really is going to be huge, as we've discussed in our previews, it would be good to be able to go, okay, now I'm just not going to use a gun at all, or I'm going to use only a pistol and have all these different bio and tech powers.
I agree. I think it would be cool. Like, even though I've played Mass Effect 2 and 3 a bunch, and I'm playing through Mass Effect 1, it's still, there are still classes that I haven't used.
Yeah. And you say that you can switch some of this stuff even in the middle of combat. This isn't like a only back on the ship type deal.
Yeah, so you can switch your profiles in the middle of combat, although doing that will put all your powers on cooldown. So a less drastic way to change tactics, if you don't want to do that, will be through the favourites system.
Right.
Now, we have heard that you can only have 3 powers equipped at any one time.
Right, and that's naturally pissed a few people off.
Yeah, it's got some fans concerned, yeah. But the favourite system is sort of the compromise. So what you'll be able to do is equip 4 different loadouts of 3 different powers through the favourites wheel.
Right, okay, sure, yeah.
And you can access the favourites wheel by bringing up the weapons wheel, and then by pressing another button, and then by moving to the right part of the favourites wheel to equip the different loadouts. So it's a couple of button presses. It's not like it's going to keep you immersed in combat the whole time.
Sure.
But it's better than going through a settings menu or whatever. So that's fairly quick access to 12 different powers there in 4 different loadouts. It does get a bit better for us on PC though, because we'll be able to hotkey our favourite powers. So you could have, for instance, Tactical Cloak, Cryo Freeze, and Energy Drain on your loadout, and then you could have Incinerate or something bound to the H key.
Right, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can then we actually get a little more customization there, just because we have access to more buttons with our left hand.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
If you've got good memory for key bindings, you can have lots of powers on call at all times.
Sure. And so, what are we doing with cooldowns at the moment? You said that these are just working as they're actually one by one rather than all at once. And also there was the weight system in Mass Effect 3, which I'd completely forgotten about until I started playing it again a few days ago. Is that back? Please say no.
I'm afraid it is.
Oh boy.
That's basically how they're forcing a compromise between forcing you to pick between guns and powers. Really,
sure.
It works quite similarly to 3. Equipping Ryder with more and heavier guns will add to his weight and will slow your cooldowns. However, you won't have 5 gun slots from the get-go. You've got a dedicated melee slot, and you've got just 2 slots for your guns at the start. You can unlock 2 more for a maximum of 4 by leveling your combat fitness skill.
So it's not done by type anymore then?
No.
It's just you can have 4 sniper rifles equipped if you have 4 sniper rifles that you would like to
I think
use.
you could, if you really wanted,
interesting. Right.
Some profiles and skills will also speed up your cooldowns.
Okay.
So there's another way to manage it.
Sure. And so when it came to the profiles, how extreme are we talking about the difference between, say, playing an infiltrator and playing a soldier, for example? So, those two might be, that they share half a specialization, I suppose, there. But did you feel like you were playing a different character when you switched over? Or did it feel like a different, talent tree? Or where would you put it?
Yeah, it did feel fairly profound, I guess. So I played through the first mission as an infiltrator. They loaded up the second save for us for the second mission, and that had a sort of Vanguard profile equipped at the start as standard. And the Vanguard profile did a bunch of different things. Like, obviously you had different powers, so depending on the profiles that you unlock, you will only have certain powers available to you, which is obviously going to make things feel a little bit different.
Yeah.
But the things that the profiles actually do in and of themselves, the most obvious differences between them are the active effects that I talked about.
Right.
So the Infiltrator's dodging cloak, which I didn't unlock, but which sounds like it's going to be
sure.
quite cool.
You can make an assumption there.
The Vanguard, though, did unlock a bunch of that profile had some of its active effects unlocked, which
Because it was
included
reasonably
things
higher
like-
level, right?
It was a bit higher level, yeah. So that added like sort of weird biotic effects to your jump and your evasion. It wasn't completely clear whether or not that was just cosmetic, but that and the fact that the melee, a bit bonus damage for melee attacks was so high, I did feel incentivized to sort of get in close and start scrapping a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the changes will be fairly substantial.
All right, that sounds pretty good. Okay, well, thank you, Rich, for going to play the game before anybody else had the option to. I'm sure that was a great sacrifice.
My absolute pleasure, Ben.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. We'll have much more for you about Mass Effect Andromeda in the future. Please do check out the combat guide that is attached to this video over on the website as well. The game should be pretty much playable by everybody fairly soon, and as you can imagine, we'll have plenty to say about that as well. I hope you enjoyed the video. Do leave us a like if you did. Let us know in the comments what you want to see about Mass Effect Andromeda if you're excited for the game, whether the Black Widow is everything you hope for it to be and more, and we'll see you next time.